Well, hello and happy Monday. This is Mrs. Radloff. Yes, that's right. I knew you would miss my voice, and so I thought I would share with you a nutrition lesson or two so that you could not feel too lonely without me. All kidding aside, the next 2 days are going to be critical because every section that you complete is only going to improve your grade. Grades right now are pretty much set. So if you're not happy with it, the more that you complete these sections, the better your overall grade will be. So let's get started. With nutrition, looking at these different images, we've noticed that images have evolved over time. It started with the food pyramid where they're at different levels, and then it went to a side-by-side model. And now the most common is choose my plate, where we notice that vegetables really have the highest priority on our plate. So why is our diet or food intake so important? Yes, I purposely crossed out diet because diet implies that there is a starting and stopping point. I'm going to go on a diet. That means that there is going to be an end. But the problem with ending a diet is that we often just default back to our previous habits and we don't actually change the way that we are eating. So let's look at why it's important. Nutrition is important for energy. It's our fuel. It's what we need in order to meet those challenges and demands when we talk to mental health, looking at our stresses. And we really can't meet those if we don't have the fuel to keep going. So energy is a critical part of our food intake. The second is disease prevention. We spent a lot of time on our non-communicable diseases talking about ways to prevent developing that disease. And as most of you found out, one of the top things was our food intake or our diet. So let's look at what this includes. Our caloric needs. Each one of us has a different amount of calories that we need in our day. So take a look at the chart. The columns at the top, find where you fall. Is it in the 9 to 13-year-old range, or is it in the 14 to 18-year-old range? And then down below, we have it broken down into female and male. If you're a 13-year-old female, then 1,600 calories is what we're going to call your base number of caloric need. If you're 14 or maybe even 15 and female, then we're looking at 1,800 calories as being your base level calorie. Males, 9 to 13, you're looking at 1,800 calories as your base. And if you're 14 or 15, then 2,200. This is all based on the number of calories that you burn at different ages. So go ahead, look at your notes. Find where that base number is. Fill that in, and then take a look over on the side. We have a 0 to 200 calorie increase if you are moderately physically active, and 200 to 400 calories if you are very physically active. So take a moment, look at your base number. Are you 1,600, 1,800, or 2,200? And then add the appropriate number of calories for your personal diet needs. Again, if you are moderately active, you're going to increase by that 200. And we're going to go ahead and use the top number if you consider yourself to be very physically active and fill in that 400 calorie. So if we're looking at calories and we're looking at the number that we need to make sure that we are looking at those calories on a label. The calories in this particular box of granola bars, one bar is 170 calories, which in and of itself isn't too terrible of a thing, but we need to make sure that we're breaking that down into the appropriate amounts. So we're going to look at 3 good habit killers because these things are really what stand out on a label that we should be looking at, so we make sure that we are eating that balanced diet. Sugar, salt, and fat are our 3 good habit killers. While our body needs all of them, each of them, if we get too much, can be detrimental to our health. Sugar. Make sure you find this part on your notes and fill it in accordingly. Why we need it? Again, this is our primary source of energy. Everything is really broken down. Once we consume it, it's broken down into a usable form of sugar. And that's where it's going to go to the brain. It's going to go to our muscles. It's fast energy. These are typically our carbohydrates. Our brain needs sugar in order to work well. So the days that you feel sluggish, it's possibly because you didn't consume enough. Now, this does not mean that you should go out and get a box of Nerds or Swedish Fish and just down that and say, oh, my brain's going to work better. No, this is thinking about what's going to be most sustainable over a longer period of time. Fast sugar intake means a faster sugar crash, which means we drop way below where we need to be in order to function appropriately. If we get too much, then excess fat, excess sugar, stores as fat. Once it's processed through the liver and the liver has pulled out everything that it needs, it takes the rest of it and puts it into fat deposits. We know, again, because of the research that we did, that this leads to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes, specifically type 2, because as we know, type 1 can't be prevented. It's something that just develops for some reason. But diabetes type 2 is directly linked to excessive amounts of sugar and even just overall calories that the body isn't using. So what is it that's recommended for us? According to the American Heart Association, women should be taking in 6 teaspoons of sugar in only one day. That's 24 grams approximately. You'll notice my note in the bottom right-hand corner. 1 teaspoon of sugar is actually equivalent to 4.2 grams, but just for simple round numbers and a better understanding, I decided to take that 0.2 off. This still gives us a really good estimation and a really good idea of what that looks like. For men, you're looking at 9 teaspoons a day. That's 36 grams. Don't worry, we're not going to break down each one of these names, but understand that sugar comes in so many different forms and can be called so many different things. When we're looking at a label, we need to make sure that we're keying into all the possible names